I remember the first time I ever tasted alcohol, and it was the single greatest experience of my entire life. And much to my detriment, I've chased the feeling it gave me for the next 18 years. Today's video is brought to you by The Addiction Spectrum, a compassionate, holistic approach to recovery written by Dr. Paul Thomas and Jennifer Margulis, available wherever books are sold nationwide September 4th and online. It is also brought to you by the Addiction Summit Encore Weekend starting August 25th to 26th, 2018. Enjoy every single talk for free during this free weekend replay. 28 world experts in the field of addiction, health, wellness, and much more, interviewed by Dr. Paul Thomas, free and online.
Dr. Paul here. Thank you for watching, and to all of our faithful viewers, I really appreciate each and every one of you. You know this is the man behind the camera. He's the producer and the genius behind this channel. And he's bringing to us today his bitter story, and he wanted me to reflect as a dad. You know I'm also an alcoholic, 15 years in recovery. So I had this interesting phenomenon of being an addictionologist, an alcoholic, and I'm watching you suffer.
Yeah. The interview that you guys will hopefully see when you click the link in the description is me when I was 11 days sober, proudly 134 days sober as of recording this video. What I wanted to do is just explain to you my battle with alcoholism. I think the more we can be transparent as a community with one another, when it's a safe and appropriate environment to do so, the better chance and likelihood that we can reach other people who are suffering, most likely in silence. It's a tough thing to talk about. Stigma is real, and so we are here to help break down that stigma and let you understand that whether you're a doctor, right, a medical professional, or you're a filmmaker, producer, everyday guy, you can, and everyone in between, you can struggle with addiction, and we can lose our lives to addiction. So we're going to start with my story.
And we have not rehearsed this at all. This is totally raw. I don't have any idea what you're about to say.
I don't either.
So
when I was 13 years old, I was introduced to alcohol. I really loved the feeling. I had a white light experience. I got that euphoria, that feeling, that dopamine rush, and I never experienced anything so amazing ever. It changed everything immediately for what would motivate me to do ... anything, because I just felt something I didn't know existed.
you loved the effect.
I loved the effect.
That was my experience with alcohol, and probably yours with a substance if you have a substance use disorder or an alcohol use disorder. I just thought of something.
What's that?
13 years old
Yeah.
was the first year I tried to get sober.
Okay.
That was 2000. You were born in 87.
Right.
That was my first attempt.
Wow.
It was just like interesting.
That is interesting.
I will say, as a father, as an alcoholic, and I was getting into trouble with my alcoholism at that point, I was super functional, doctor, running case conferences. Nobody would have known, but I was hurting inside, and I knew I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
When I think there was something about watching your kids start to maybe going down that journey.
That kind of makes you
It's
look
like
in the
this
mirror.
wake-up call to a parent. It's
Makes
like,
sense.
oh my God. Anyway, carry on.
Because you want to be an example.
Yeah, how can I help you if I'm in my disease?
Right. That's the do as I say, not as I do.
It'd be hypocritical.
It would be hypocritical. And kids note that sort of things. We pay attention. I think people in general pay attention to those sorts of things, which is why actions, change yourself, change the world.
Yeah.
That experience motivated me going forward permanently. It motivated when I wanted to see people, how I was seeing people. I wanted to know, even at 13 years old, how do I recapture that moment? The hangover that came after it, the sickness I felt the next morning, be damned, I wanted to experience that again. And so from that moment forward, I lost a certain part of my ability to choose. I really did. I immediately became a problem drinker. When I was 14 years old, literally a year later, I got drunk and I broke into my local middle school. I remember that I was too afraid to do this unless I had liquid courage. And so I drank, I felt powerful, I felt invincible. I broke into the school. Long story short, I was arrested, I was expelled from Portland Public Schools, and my life was instantly on the fritz. I remember coming home in handcuffs because I had gotten wasted and decided to break the law and commit a crime.
It was real clear that my son drank alcoholically.
Yeah.
And he loved the effect. And so as a parent, when you start seeing this, my mom used to tell me, I wish you just wouldn't drown yourself, Paul. And I'm like, to me, I'm not having a good time.
Right? We're just having fun.
Yeah.
We're having fun.
Yeah.
High school was a series of binge drinking when I could, but I had a girlfriend at the time who wasn't much of a partier. I did fine in school. I had sports. I had other things that grounded me that kept it from becoming a more serious problem. But when I drank aggressively for the effects, and I was always the person trying to figure out how we can drink. I just didn't really have any mental side effects, emotional side effects that I was in tune with, that I was aware with. I just wanted to get wasted all the time, and I thought that was normal. As soon as I got into college and I started being faced with anything related to like the real world, being introduced to adult responsibility, even at the early stages of it, my drinking really took off when I left that home environment, the home environment that he had for me. At the end of high school, he was sober. And my mom was sober, so we had a safe environment in that way. And it was a cocoon that I didn't realize at the time, but afterwards, I wanted to drink more. And I started to drink at very inopportune times. And eventually, I wound up cheating on my girlfriend of 5 years, being drunk. She broke up with me as she should have. I became deeply depressed, and I drank to make that feel better. I also got arrested for stealing gas drunk and got a criminal record because of that shortly after the breakup.
$10 no less.
$10 no less. When there was trouble, alcohol was involved, and the fun I was having wasn't as safe to assume it was going to be a fun night. I was starting to be aware that I didn't quite know what was going to happen even then if I started drinking.
You know as a parent that if somehow they could just, my mom used to say this to me too, if you could just not drink so much or just not drink, you'd be fine.
You'd be okay.
You'd be fine.
Yeah.
But how do you get that message across to somebody who's still in it, right?
Unfortunately, even with your example being sterling, I'm one of those people that has to suffer for myself, sadly. And the truth is, for people like me, it doesn't have to be that way, but for people like me, if I don't go through pain and misery, I just don't believe it.
Yeah.
It's just not real to me. And I wish I was one of those people that can choose someone else's bottom, because they're out there. I've met folks who are like, they see where it's headed and they have some sort of divine intervention or intuition or a God shot, whatever you want to call it, where they're like, I know where I'm headed. I don't want to go there. I choose to recognize someone else's bottom as my potential bottom. But I didn't. So much so that when I was 25 years old, I had a huge mental breakdown. I had an adverse reaction to a medication, and after that fact, I was hospitalized on psych meds, forms of shock therapy. I had to move back in with my parents again at 25.
He had to be 24 hours a day supervised. He was so suicidal.
I was deeply, deeply sick from this rare reaction to the medication. That was on the heels of me coming out of rehab. I know this is a lot, but try to stay with me. Coming out of rehab that I checked myself into and then relapsing. So again, alcohol just constantly playing this dangerous part of my life. The importance of that story as it would relate to this, as it would relate to the hopeless nature of alcoholism, the moment I started to do better. I mean, the moment my depression, my suicidality, my panic disorder, my depersonalization, derealization, which is being stuck in a dreamlike state, the moment that started to do better, what did I do?
Go out and drink again.
I started drinking again.
Oh boy, watching this as a parent, folks, it's heartbreaking because you were so close to death already.
I mean, he would hold me at night at 26 years old, rock me in this bed near their bed as I cried, and just tell me you're going to be okay. I was like a little child just crying because of my depression, and there's my dad just trying to keep his.
It was rough, folks.
That was very rough.
I've never seen anybody that depressed.
Yeah,
I had never seen it.
I didn't know it existed.
The extent of pain that you were experiencing, and you're the one that taught me it was pain. Unbelievable. But you went back to drinking.
But I went back to drinking.
And he was on this spiral of self-destruction again. As a parent, you're watching this. If you have loved ones who are in their addiction, you're watching it. And what the heck do you do? And here's where this addiction summit and this book, The Addiction Spectrum, which grew out of this experience and my own life experience with alcohol and as an addictionologist, played this unforeseen role in your life.
Couldn't make this up if we tried, guys.
My goodness. So my publisher says, we're at the publisher in San Francisco. They say, do a summit on addiction. This is needed. People need this information. I said, okay. I haven't a clue how to do a summit. I know a few people who are important, and I start setting up some interviews. And I go to my producer and I said, son, can you help me out and video some of these interviews? I've got to do 28 interviews.
Mind you, at this time, I was drinking probably 60 to 70 beers a week, easy, and just trying to hold my life together, barely holding my marriage together, barely holding our YouTube business together. I mean, just surviving, bare minimal surviving, the look good, whilst binge drinking, binge eating, driving drunk, feeling depressed, very much struggling.
As a parent, I really thought I could lose him.
Yeah.
I really did think it was that close to, I don't know if he's going to make it. But I was going to a big addiction conference in San Diego where 2 of my interviews needed to take place, and you said yes.
But the night before it was time to actually go, I was this close to canceling on this summit and everything, just saying screw it to everything because my anxiety was so bad. I wasn't going to be able to drink on this trip. What would I do? My DTs were so bad. My stomach ulcers from drinking were so bad. I mean, I was an absolute incomprehensible mess.
You were a physical mess.
I called you saying, I texted you or called you, I don't remember. I was saying, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
And he said to me, just show up. Like, please just show up. You're going to be okay. Do not cancel this trip.
Yeah.
You'll be okay.
You'll be okay.
And I laid in bed just panicking, anxiety, sweating, so miserable.
So we fly off to San Diego and you film a couple powerful interviews. Powerful interviews that you can watch for free this coming weekend. It's the final opportunity, this replay weekend of the Addiction Summit. But, you know, I'm watching you listen and film, and then you've ended up helping me film several other interviews.
Right.
And you stayed sober.
Something happened.
That was the beginning.
That was literally the beginning. So I got sober April 11th, and we flew off to that summit April 12th or April 13th.
Yeah.
One of those 2 days.
Yeah, you only had a day or two.
I only had a day or two, and I was a mess, and my ears weren't even open. I was just in pain. I wanted to stop drinking, but I lost the power of choice. I didn't think I'd ever stop drinking. I was starting to just figure out how I would go about living out my life as this hopeless drunk. You really get self-defeating language when your history is so erratic and when you're so out of control. You just start to decide for yourself that you're hopeless. It's really hard not to feel hopeless. So I'm producing these interviews. I'm listening to a man named Marv Sepula and Julie Valenti, experts in their field of addiction, mental health, recovery, rewiring the brain, incredibly powerful people. And I'm filming these interviews and I'm sweating and I'm trying to fight back panic and anxiety and I'm so low and foggy. But I just heard something. I heard something and it connected with me. It lit up my spirit. And I remember being like at the verge of tears, listening to them talk. I'm sitting there behind the camera because I'm desperate. You know, I'm dying inside. I'm desperate. And these people are just glowing. And my dad is glowing. And I'm just sitting in this little shadow of a life, dying, while these folks have so much hope. And I don't know what it was. I really don't. It's not like I'm telling you it's magic. I don't know why it happened. But when I listen to these speakers, my dad included, when I listened to them, I just got enough hope from their words and their testimony and their professional experience and their personal anecdotal experience to just stay sober 1 extra hour, 1 extra day to the next interview. And then before I knew it, I had 4 days sober, a personal record for over 2 years. And before I knew it, I had 10 days sober, and I'm listening to more, and my heart's opening up, and I don't even know what's happening to me. I'm just staying sober.
You guys, I'm getting goosebumps because I got to witness a miracle. And you see miracles, you see people get it. You see people get into recovery. And where he's transformed his life to today in just a few, 3-4 months.
4.5 months.
4.5 months. Unbelievable. And it all started with this summit.
It really did. It really did.
Just cannot ask you enough. I don't know how to tell you that you've got to check this out.
Yeah.
I would get goosebumps or tears during these interviews because we just got real.
We did.
You know, I've had the ability because I am an alcoholic. I have suffered. I understand. And I know the pain that you're in and the pain that your loved ones are in, that I didn't want to mess around when I'm doing interviews and be talking way up here. It's getting down to the real heart of the issue.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing in this book.
Yeah.
And so my ask for you today is check out this summit, please, and order this book. We need to start changing the country. We need to start changing the world. But it's one person at a time.
Yeah.
I'm just talking to you and your loved one because that's where it all begins, just like it started with this guy.
I mean, this summit helped to save my life. I couldn't imagine going 1 day without drinking leading up to this summit. I really couldn't. And I'd been actively trying for a few months, and I just couldn't not drink. And I never in a million years would have imagined that even 4.5 months sober, I would feel so emotionally liberated, spiritually liberated, financially liberated, physically liberated. I've lost 25 pounds since getting sober. Here's a picture of my face when I was a couple days before getting sober, and as you can see in comparison to now, I'm healthy, I'm sleeping better, my marriage is improving, my business is improving, my self-esteem, my incredibly destroyed self-esteem is getting stronger and stronger, and I have hope today. I had no hope. And I've gotten a chance to edit and watch back all these Addiction Summit interviews, and they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing, and it has nothing to do with the money. It has nothing to do with the business side of this. Like, you can't fake what's happening to me. It just happened, and I want it for everyone because I know that pain and suffering. He knows that pain and suffering. This isn't a game to us. This is actually our lives, and if I'm not sober and in recovery, I'm destined for a very slow, if not fast, alcoholic death, whether it be spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially, whatever comes first. I was dying. He was dying, and we are so alive right now, and I'm so humbled by that. And I just want everyone to have a chance to listen, and it's free. This Encore weekend is free. And this book took a year for my dad to write, and it's incredibly powerful, and it's tangible, and it's real, and it comes from the perspective of an alcoholic, not just a doctor who's learned it. He's lived it, and he happens to be an addictionologist. He happens to be board certified in holistic medicine. He's the real deal. It's not a gimmick. This is a labor of love. You don't go into life hoping to be an alcoholic so you can write a book about how to... You don't. No one plans on becoming an alcoholic so you can write a great book.
Dr. Marv Seppala, who I adore, he's one of my mentors in the addiction world. He's the chief medical officer of Hazelden Betty Ford. And he writes, as I read this wonderful book, I could hear Dr. Paul's voice as he described addiction in compassionate, clear terms and provided a practical, concise approach to recovery. Each chapter builds on his plan for your recovery using a unique, integrative health approach that cultivates the knowledge, skills, and resources necessary for anyone to successfully deal with this complex disease. Thanks, Marv. I'm an alcoholic. I now can say thankfully because I wouldn't have the freedom that I have today. I wouldn't have the just life-filled life that I have.
And perspective.
And perspective. And I wanted to share it with you all. And this guy is a testament to the power of love, the power of truth, and the power of willingness. And we were praying for your willingness, and thank God you got it. And if you're struggling, pray for willingness every day until it comes. And then you just latch on, get the book, watch the summit, plug into somebody who's going to guide you along the journey. And it is our wish for you that you get this, sincerely, that you find freedom, because it's there for each one of us. I thank you so much for watching. I'm Dr. Paul.
My name is Noah. My YouTube channel is Big No No, and thank you guys so much for letting me share my story. Thank you so much for embracing my dad and letting him share his life and letting us share his life here on YouTube. And just don't be afraid. You're not alone. Be so brave. If I can get sober, if he can get sober, if we can change our lives one good choice at a time, one day at a time, anybody can, I promise.
You can too.